So I recently created a challenge for myself, where I left the jungle and top lane roles that I've mained for over 10 years and got high elo with, and I started to play AD carry from scratch. The point behind this was to see what the AD carry role was like to play, and if I could take my top and jungle learnings and apply them in the bot lane. And so far, the results are pretty good. So how am I able to do this? I'm not a very good AD carry, or am I? Let's hold our horses for a bit. The stats are great, but the opponents so far are not really a challenge, and I want to explain why. These players in the lower ranks have played more AD carry than I have, and probably ever will, for many years. They are much more experienced in the role, and they are most likely mechanically better at the role. So what are they missing? What do I have that they don't? The answer is basic fundamentals. There are so many mistakes in the first 5 minutes that allows a player like me to just take control of the game without having to do anything crazy. Even though they might pilot their champion a bit better than me, they are not outthinking me in the early game. Let's talk about it. Check out the timestamps in the comments. I am of course talking about things like not understanding level up timers, gank timers, posture in the lane, minion wave management, when to fight, when to sit back, even when to recall. In short terms, this is a lot to think about. So let's make it easier. I am a big Formula 1 fan, and I'm going to use some racing terms to make AD carry easier to understand. The leading cars in Formula 1 set the pace for all other cars, how fast they want to go and how fast they want the rest of the grid to go. The word pace is crucial for AD carries. Let's divide the AD carry playstyles in 3. We'll call them A, B and C. Playstyle A is when you as the bot lane want to set the pace for the game. You are the stronger bot lane, and you want to make things happen in the early game, because if you don't set the pace, your chances of winning goes down later. Think about champions like Draven, Kalista, Caitlyn that are very strong in the early game. In higher elos, everyone will know this, and mid and jungle will try to play for you because it's an easy win. In lower elos, you rely a lot more on pure mechanics, because nobody is really going to help you win the early game because they don't understand what they need to do. Playstyle B is when you are on the losing end of the bot lane matchup. The enemy team is stronger, and if everyone in the game plays perfectly, you will lose all the fights in the early game. The enemy team is setting the pace for the game. They are using playstyle A. You don't want to play their game because you will lose. You just want to stay as close to their pace as possible without going over the limit of your own champion. You get stronger the longer the game goes, so you just need to not fall behind in the early game to increase your chances of winning in the mid and late game. Think about champions like Ezreal, Sivir, Kog'Maw. In higher elos, you are expected to go even or lose gracefully without giving away a massive lead. The mid laner and jungle will mostly play for themselves when you are in playstyle B, and you just have to keep up as best as you can. Eventually, you will get strong enough and you get to take control of the game. Playstyle C is when both teams are evenly matched in the bot lane, and now both teams are fighting for the right to set the pace. You get a kill or two, you recall, you spend your gold, you come back to the lane and you play with your gold advantage. Because of the fact that the teams are constantly fighting each other, you invite the mid laners and the junglers down to the bot lane because they want to influence and tip the scales in their favor. Most AD carry players use playstyle C every game. They don't know when the enemy team is A, they don't know when they should use B, and the reason why bot lane is the most flip lane in the game is because of this. Everyone thinks they are the main carry in every game, and that is wrong. It's so easy for me as a long-time jungle main to look at bot lane and see when someone is going way over the limit. It's a free kill, and most likely a free kill leads to a free game. Imagine seeing Ezreal and Sona trying to play the A playstyle versus a Draven and Thresh. It doesn't make sense, yet it happens every game in lower elos because people don't understand who's setting the pace. Sometimes even a Draven player needs to play B and they need to adapt. You pick Draven and the enemy team picks Nautilus Samira. Instead of matching the early game power, your support picks Sona. Now it doesn't matter that you are Draven and you want to use playstyle A, you will lose because the enemy team combined is stronger. Now you must use playstyle B and wait for the Sona to scale up before you can get the advantage and try setting your own pace. Identify what playstyle you should be running at the start of the game. Stick to that playstyle until you can adapt. It can change during the game depending on how the start of the game goes. Just be a bit prepared for it. It does not matter if your support is running it down. Staying alive and even in XP is the most important thing you can do in the early game when you are losing. Even if the CS difference is 20-30 minions, you will catch up later. Just stay consistent with the rules. It's the best tip for anyone looking to climb with AD carry or support. The next point is very important, level up timers. Now, the most important level up timer is level 2 and 3 for bot lane. You get level 2 as a duo lane when the first wave dies and 3 minions from the second wave die. If you are playstyle A, you and the support should hit the minions together and get level 2 ASAP because you are setting the pace. You want to be aggressive and fast. If you hit level 2 and the enemy bot lane is not backing off, you can engage on them, make them low, make them waste sums, make them use their potions. Even if you don't get a kill, it's worth it because now they can't play the game anymore. Let's say you are the Ezreal Sona, a weak lane, and the enemy Draven Thresh is not pushing the pace at the start because they're playing bad, and you somehow get level 2 first. Now you have the advantage for a limited time, and you can use that to try and take the pace away from them, even as the weaker lane. If you make Draven low, if Draven wastes his sums and uses his potions, then he can't play aggressive in the lane. He's too low. You remove his early game advantage by punishing him for not playing the correct playstyle. Sometimes he will still play aggressive because he thinks he's strong and then he dies, and that's game over. You hit level 4 as a duo on the 4th minion wave. A thing I have noticed when playing AD carry myself is that supports are sometimes really stupid when it comes to leashing for the jungler, and they overstay and miss XP in lane. This makes the enemy team hit level 2 first, and your chances of dying early increases from a simple mistake from the support, and sometimes the AD carry as well. As a jungle player primarily, I want to normalize to not leash for the jungler, ever. It's an ancient mechanic, back from the times when the jungle camps used to beat the fuck out of you. Today, anyone can full clear easily, without help. Leashing for the jungler just tells the enemy team where they are starting and where they will path. However, there is a risk in low elo that the jungler trolls if they don't get a leash because they don't understand. That's why you stop leashing after the timer hits 137. No extra autos, no extra spells, just walk away. If you leave at 137, you will not miss XP from the first minion wave. Missing the first XP from the minions just to leash is a massive crime. Don't do that, it's losing you games for no reason. Next point, gank timers. Junglers in lower elos are a bit basic and will mostly follow 3 simple tactics. They either full clear all 6 camps, and on average they are done at 3:30 when the Skull Crab spawns. Every jungle champion can do this. They can also 3 camp into gank, and that is around 2:20 on average. Mostly it's when they have a strong laner that they want to set ahead at the risk of being invaded. If they get a kill, they are really far ahead. If they don't, they are massively behind in tempo and could lose jungle camps. Think about Kayn coming through the walls at level 3 or Zac doing an early gank, etc. And there are some junglers that have it hard-coded into their brains to gank or invade at level 2. Most of the time it's the Shakos, the Talon players, the one with extra combat power with Ignite, that want to gain an early lead from the kills and don't want to farm all game long. They can really only do this with mid lane and the side they start on. Why am I telling you this? Because it's important for the support and AD carry to match their aggression in lane in compliance with the gank timers. You don't want to play super aggressive aggressive when there is a chance that a Zac comes flying over the wall and turning the fight into a 3 versus 2. Pay attention to the minimap at the start of the game. Is the enemy bot lane late to lane? Are they leashing? The enemy jungler is bot side. Let's not push too far. We don't want to get level 3 ganked at 220. Drop an early ward in the river bush to prevent this. Is the top laner late to the lane? Did they leash? The enemy jungler is starting top and clearing down towards us. They will be here at around 330. Let's not get ganked. Position yourself in a way where it's hard or impossible for the enemy team to kill you. The best way to do that is with minions. And my next point, minion wave management. Where the minion wave is dictates how easy it is for junglers to gank. The logic is quite easy. If you push up hard, it's difficult for your jungler to gank and easier for the enemy jungler to gank. If the wave is close to your tower, it's easier for your jungler to gank and harder for the enemy. In the lane, when we push, it's mostly because we gain something out of pushing. If we are Morgana Caitlyn, we can hard poke the enemy team under tower and hit the tower at the same time. We can play aggressively, and it's hard for the enemy team to safely farm under tower and not get poked out of lane. If we are Lucian Braum, however, we gain very little from being pushed up, because we don't have the same poke and range. Instead, we like to be closer to our own tower, so the enemy team has to walk up further to farm. The further away the enemy team is from their own tower, the longer is the distance that Braum and Lucian can run down the enemy team and kill them. When we want to recall, we don't want to lose a minion wave to our tower, and this needs setup in advance. We need to crash the minion wave under the turret, and the best way to do this is to slow push one wave, where we only last hit the minions at the last frame of a second, wait for another wave to join the previous one, and then hard push once the two waves connect. You make sure that the two waves reach the enemy tower, and then you safely recall and spend your gold. Because the enemy team has to deal with two waves at once, it takes them longer to clear it if they want to farm at all. They also need to recall, so now they are in a bad position. You will get back the lane before they can push back the lane, and you are stronger because you've spent your gold. If they fight you, they should lose, and if they only recall, they would lose minions and tower plates because they only have one wave on their side. A correct recall that's planned in advance is one of the best ways to gain a massive lead in the bot lane or any lane. This is a perfect way of playing against champions that are not fighting you and just playing safe. We can't kill them straight up, so we need to gain a lead in another way. This is how you gain a lead with tempo advantage. Freezing a minion wave can be done, but in my experience it's not that good to focus on that in lower elos, mostly because the jungler is not aware of what the freeze is and what it means and how to play around it. It's powerful in high elo, when laners get punished if they try to break the freeze. In lower elos it's mostly pointless. Lastly, we need to talk about posture, and this is more about the support than it is about the AD carry. If the game looks even, with nobody making aggressive moves, and the enemy Leona suddenly seems to just walk straight towards you, do you 1. Auto-attack her because she's playing stupidly, 2. Engage on the AD carry instead, or 3. Back off because someone might be coming and that's why she suddenly starts to play aggressive? Of course we back off. We notice the change in posture and in playstyle. She's obviously pinging for an engage, or the enemy team is pinging her to engage on you. We don't want to play into the hands of the enemy, so we back off a bit, we assess the situation, we read the minimap and where our own jungler is, and then we can make a decision if we can walk back in. In higher elos, it's normal for a support to fake walk towards you and pretend that someone is coming to scare you off a bit and buy a bit more space for their own AD carry to farm. If you are reading the minimap well and you know that nobody is coming, you can sometimes call their bluff and fight it out assuming that you can win. Reading the enemy's behavior is so important. It gives you the information you need when you don't have deep vision, and in lower elos, players are very obvious with their intentions, and once you know what to look for, it's very hard for the enemy team to kill you. That is why bush control exists as a concept, and why having control of these 3 bushes is so important, and why supports and AD carries needs to fight for them. If you're hidden in the bush, the enemy team can't see you. You could be walking forward, you could be aiming a spell, you could be charging Hex Flash, you could do a sheet a recall and spend your gold, and the enemy team would have no idea. The posture for the AD carry is also very simple. If your support is walking back, you need to walk back a bit. so that you're not in a 2 versus 1 position. If your support walks up, you can walk up a bit as well. Try to always stay in a parallel line with your support. That makes it very hard for the enemy team to single one of you out. On top of the things I talk about in this video, we can also apply the other basics in lane. We try to farm every minion that we can farm for free without getting heavily damaged. We try to land poke on the enemy when they are CSing. We dodge spells to stay high HP and not get engaged on. We ward bushes when we need more information. And we recall when we have enough gold for a big power spike. These are all pieces to the same AD carry puzzle. We need to put it all together to get the full picture and see success in the bot lane. Every AD carry has the same puzzle pieces, from the best AD carry in the world, Ruler, all the way down to Iron 3 Timmy. But the full picture just gets clearer and more beautiful in the end when it's all put together, the better you are at all the different pieces. That's why losses and wins are meaningless. Your goal every game should be to just improve on the different things in the puzzle. The wins come naturally later by just playing the game better. That's how you improve faster and more efficiently. That's gonna be it for the basic fundamentals of the AD carry. Let me know what you thought about this as a guide. Did I miss something that you want me to go over? Do you have any other questions? Let me know in the comments below. Like the video if you enjoyed it and you learned something, and subscribe for more, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.